You ever have one of those moments when you open your mouth before your brain can stop you, and then suddenly everyone's staring, waiting to see if you can actually back it up? Yeah, that happened to me. I was just some college kid hauling paper targets at a shooting range, trying to keep my head down, when I told a Navy SEAL he was pulling his shots because he was anticipating recoil, and the whole damn team turned to look at me like I'd just insulted their mothers. It was supposed to be just another morning. I'd been up since 5, drove to the Oceanside Range in the dark, sipping gas station coffee, and telling myself the early shift was worth the extra pay. Nursing school isn't cheap, and my dad's Marine Corps disability check only stretched so far. I didn't love this job, but it beat waiting tables. Most days I kept my mouth shut, swapped out targets, and stayed invisible. You know what I mean? Military types don't exactly want unsolicited advice from some 20-something range rat. But that morning, the SEALs had booked the long-range section. They came in 2 black SUVs, all business, quiet, efficient, moving like a pack of wolves. Their leader, Jake Sullivan, didn't need to bark orders. The way the others deferred to him said everything. But the new guy, Rodriguez, stood out instantly, swaggering like he was trying way too hard to prove he belonged. I've seen that type before. Usually civilians who think looking cool equals shooting well. But Rodriguez was a SEAL, which made his sloppy technique puzzling. From the 500-yard line, I watched him like a hawk. My dad, Gunnery Sergeant Miguel Martinez, taught me to shoot when I was 12, so I can't help cataloging mistakes in my head. Rodriguez's left elbow was tucked wrong. His cheek weld kept changing. His grip screamed tension, and the way he slapped that trigger, God, it was painful to watch. Every miss made him angrier, which only made his shooting worse. His teammates heckled him, laughing, not helping. Jake was watching carefully, like he was building a mental checklist. But Rodriguez? He was too busy blaming his rifle. Classic. When he finally threw the rifle down and cursed, my dad's voice just came out of me. The rifle's fine. You're pulling left because you're anticipating recoil. I swear. You could have heard a pin drop. 8 SEALs turned, eyes sharp, and for a second, I wished I could crawl under the nearest bench. But it was too late. The words were out there. Jake stepped forward, studying me with that kind of measured look that makes you feel like you're being weighed and judged. You think you can do better? He asked. Rodriguez laughed under his breath, muttering something about college kids who change targets. But Jake silenced him with just a look. Then he handed me the rifle. Hit the target Rodriguez has been missing all morning. 3 shots. Dead center. You do it. I'll buy lunch for everyone. You miss, you'll explain to my CO why a civilian touched military hardware. Let me back up a sec. This wasn't just about lunch. This was about pride. My dad raised me on one rule. Never say something you can't prove. And in that moment, it wasn't just my pride. It was my dad's name on the line. When I said my last name, Marcus Webb, a graying SEAL with sharp eyes, tilted his head. Miguel Martinez? Scout Sniper School. His tone changed instantly. Damn, kid, your father trained legends. Rodriguez stopped smirking. Suddenly, all eyes were on me like I was some kind of secret weapon. I dropped into the shooting position, adjusting everything Rodriguez had butchered, shifted my weight onto bone support, relaxed my grip just enough, found that natural respiratory pause Dad drilled into me. And you, I told Rodriguez without looking up, hold your breath too long. Your heart rate spikes. You jerk the trigger. Breathe normal. Exhale halfway, then hold. Jake's eyebrows lifted, just a hint, like he was impressed I even noticed. Then I pressed the trigger, smooth, straight back, letting the rifle surprise me. Crack. A puff of dust exactly where I'd aimed. I worked the bolt, fired again, then again. 3 shots. Tight 2-inch group. Dead center. Silence. Even the ocean waves crashing against the cliffs sounded muted. Finally, Jake lowered his spotting scope, turned to the team, and said, "That's better than most of us shot this morning." Rodriguez muttered, "No way that's luck." Jake gave him a sharp look. "No, that's skill." Now here's where the twist kicked in. While everyone was still buzzing, a black sedan pulled up. Out stepped Commander Harrison, high-ranking, all business. He scanned the scene, eyes landing on me. Jake spoke first, introducing me, and Harrison's brows rose. Martinez? I know that name. When Jake told him what I'd just done, Harrison studied me like I was some rare specimen. Miss Martinez, That's competition-level precision. Ever consider training professionals? I almost laughed. Sir, I'm just a nursing student. This is part-time. But Jake jumped in. With your permission, she could observe some advanced sessions. She diagnoses shooting problems faster than most instructors. And just like that, my life tilted. A week later, I was standing behind a group of Marine snipers, quietly watching. One of them struggled with wind calls, and I noticed something. Tiny heat ripples off the range berms creating microdrafts the flags weren't catching. I spoke up, nervous as hell. But when they applied my correction, their shots tightened immediately. Word spread fast. The range girl who reads wind like a weather map. Harrison himself pulled me aside, saying, "You ever think about making this a career? There's work for people like you. Important work." I tried to brush it off, but a month later I got a call from Rebecca Chun, a former Army officer running a military contracting company. She wanted me as a civilian marksmanship instructor. Better pay than I'd ever dreamed of, flexible hours for school, and as she put it, "You think differently. That's what we need." My dad, of course, didn't hesitate. "Mija, you've been given a gift. Don't waste it." Fast forward 6 months. I was teaching FBI hostage teams, Army Rangers, even consulting Olympic shooters. And nursing? I still finished my degree, but I realized my real calling wasn't in hospitals. It was here, helping people whose lives depend on a steady trigger press. Funny, right? One smart-ass comment to a frustrated SEAL, and suddenly I'm shaping how some of the best shooters in the country train. The last time I saw Rodriguez, he walked up after a session, sheepish as hell, and said, "You were right. Thanks for not letting me keep sucking." We both laughed. But Jake? Jake just gave me that knowing look, like he'd seen this coming all along. And here's the kicker. Sometimes I wonder, what if I'd kept my mouth shut that morning? What if I'd stayed invisible like I was supposed to? Would my life still be buried under paper targets and spent brass? Or was this always where I was meant to be? So, tell me, what do you think? Was I out of line for speaking up, or was it exactly what needed to happen? Drop your thoughts below, because honestly, I'm still curious where you stand on this one. Do you ever notice how, once you get a taste of something bigger than yourself, life has a way of not letting you go back? I thought that day on the range was wild. Turns out, it was just a dress rehearsal for the real test. 6 months into my new part-time gig, I was no longer just the girl changing out targets and pocketing cash for tuition. I was riding shotgun in blacked-out SUVs, running advanced marksmanship courses for some of the toughest folks you'll ever meet, Special Forces, SWAT, even the odd 3-letter agency rep. People started calling me coach, but deep down, I was still Sarah, daughter of Gunnery Sergeant Martinez, carrying his voice in my head every time I stepped up to a firing line. But let me tell you, nothing at the range prepares you for a call at 2 a.m., your phone vibrating on the nightstand like it's trying to punch a hole through your dreams. It was Jake Sullivan. "We need you at the airfield. Something's come up." He didn't explain, but you don't say no to a call like that. By 3 a.m., I was in a hangar lit up with enough LEDs to land a jet. And the air was thick with that nervous, metallic taste you only get before something goes sideways. Rodriguez was there too, different now, humble, focused, carrying the kind of scars that don't show up on skin. The whole team was kicked up, but the mood wasn't just another training op. There was tension. Like everyone knew we were about to cross a line we couldn't step back from. Jake pulled me aside. "This is live, Sarah. We've got an American journalist caught in a crossfire, downtown San Salvador. Hostage rescue. We're flying out in 40. Our sniper's down with pneumonia. I need you on Overwatch. Not training. Real thing." I swear, for a second, the room spun. I'd never seen combat. I wasn't military, didn't even have a call sign, just a skill set borrowed from a lifetime of Saturdays with my dad. "You sure?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Jake's reply? "I'm sure. You read wind better than anyone I've seen. And Rodriguez, he trusts your calls." You ever realize, in one breath, that you're both terrified and exactly where you're supposed to be? On the flight down, I sat next to Rodriguez. Neither of us said much, but there was this unspoken thing between us, a kind of trust born out of humility, his, for realizing how much he'd had to learn, and mine, for knowing I still had everything to prove. He pulled out a photo of his little girl, handed it to me. "Remind me what matters if things go bad." Okay. It was so raw, so unexpected, I almost lost my nerve right there. Landing in San Salvador was chaos. Rain hammering the tarmac, radios crackling non-stop, everyone running. The team moved through the city like shadows, slipping into a half-collapsed hotel across the street from where the journalist was pinned. My post was a busted-out window. 100 yards from the target building, my borrowed rifle already slick with humidity. We had one shot. The plan was for Rodriguez to breach. Pull the journalist out while I covered the only escape route. One mistake, and it'd all go south. I was counting breaths, just like my dad taught me, trying not to picture headlines with my name and civilian casualty in the same sentence. Winds shifting left to right, 3 miles an hour. I whispered into the calm, eyes glued to the scope, watching for the glint of a rifle barrel in the far window. Rodriguez's voice crackled through. "On your go, coach." That word, coach, hit me like a freight train. I steadied my hands, exhaled halfway, heart thumping so hard I thought it'd blow my earbud out. Then I saw movement. Hostile, second floor. Trying to flank our exit. Rodriguez, window 2 o'clock, moving fast. He didn't even hesitate. Changed angle mid-stride. Scooped up the journalist with one arm, firing with the other. I tracked the hostile, dialed for wind. Pressed the trigger the way my father drilled into me. One shot, clean hit, target down. Rodriguez and the journalist made it through the alley, boots pounding. Glass raining down behind them. You know what's funny? In that moment, I felt both invincible and small, like I'd just saved a life, but also like I was balancing on a knife's edge. One mistake from disaster. The debrief back at base was a blur. Cheers, backslaps, someone shoving a Coke in my hand. Jake looked at me with that rare, genuine smile. "You did good, Sarah. Real good." Rodriguez hugged me, whispered, "Oh, you won. You kept my promise to my kid." And that, yeah, that hit harder than any recoil. But if you think that's where the story ends, you don't know how these things go. A week later, my face was in some Pentagon memo. Civilian contractor demonstrates outstanding performance under fire. The military wanted more. Contracts, briefings, opportunities I'd never dreamed about. Suddenly, I was on the edge of a new world. But with it came whispers. Some called it luck, others questioned what a civilian was doing on an op. "She doesn't have a patch, doesn't even have a rank." Old school types grumbled. Meanwhile, social media spun up the story. American girl saves the day. Navy SEALs use unqualified marksmen. You know how the internet is. Outrage is currency. One night, Jake called me to the range. The sun was going down, sky bleeding orange, shadows long on the grass. "You ready for this?" he asked. "Because after today, there's no going back. They'll either put you in the Instructor Hall of Fame or run you out for crossing lines no civilian's supposed to cross." I thought of my dad, of every lesson he'd hammered home, and realized there was no way I could go back to changing targets and being invisible. I took a long breath, watched the last bit of sunlight flicker out, and just said, if I'm going to break a rule, it might as well be for the right reason. So where do you stand? Should someone with no badge or bars be trusted with life and death calls in the field, or is that line too sacred to cross? Is it about rank, or is it about skill and heart? Drop your thoughts below, because in the end, sometimes the biggest risks open the most important doors, but someone's always got to step through first.